שלום לכולם וברוכים הבאים, אני שמח מאוד לכל מי שנמצא איתנו כאן הערב. התנאים פה לא שגרתיים, אני תכף אדבר על זה קצת מה קורה כאן, אבל מבחינתי זה בהחלט הזדמנות נפלאה ולערוך כאן ראיון שהרבה מאוד זמן רציתי לעשות אותו. אז אני רוצה קודם כל להציג את האורח שלנו שכבר נמצא כאן, אז אני אעבור גם לאנגלית, ואנחנו קיים את זה מכאן באנגלית. אני רק אבקש בינתיים, מי שכבר נמצא איתנו לקו, מוזמן לכתוב כאן בצ'אט, תכתבו לנו שאתם רואים ושומעים כמו שצריך, וגם תכתבו מי אתם, מאיפה אתם בארץ, וכמובן אם יש לכם שאלות לכל ערך הוובינר, אתם מוזמנים פה לכתוב בצ'אט, ואנחנו נענה ונגיב על השאלות האלה. So, first of all, good, what is it, morning, Tim?
It is, yes, and Erev Tov to you over there in India. What time is it?
So we are doing a very complex broadcast right now. I'm in India, I'm in Rishikesh. You're in California.
Berkeley.
And we're broadcasting to Israel. So it's
I love it. It's great. It must be a modern new world we're creating here. So
completely. And I want just to set the right layout for the conditions that I'm in. I'm here in a very nice travel office that agreed to host me here for tonight. I'll show you around a bit. It's a bit dark because there's a power failure now.
Yeah.
So you can see here.
There it is.
I'm not sure if you can see them.
Wave to the camera.
and that's my son there that is playing cards.
I recognize that little guy.
And my other son is here playing.
There he is.
And one more thing, if you hear like big bangs or booms and things like that, don't worry, everything is fine. They're celebrating their Diwali holiday here, festival.
Good. All right. That's
celebrated with firewall, like 4th of July in the States, so you can imagine.
Right.
And actually,
it's raining from the skies. So.
And the stock left, and people are using it. So occasionally you may hear like a big blow and so on. So it's all fine.
Excellent. Good.
So I haven't introduced you yet. So I want to introduce you in my perspective, and of course I would like you to introduce yourself. So Tim, I know Tim, I think for what, 6 or 7 years now since we first met.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. There is a saying, when the student is ready, the teacher will show up, right? Well, in my case with Tim, the teacher showed up way before the student was ready. I think it was 2 or 3 years before. We met when you came to Israel, and probably it was, I think we haven't talked for like 2 or 3 years. And after 2 or 3 years, I guess I was ready, and we reconnected. And actually, Tim was and is mentoring me personally. And the process that I did with Tim, finding my true purpose and refining it, and to my purpose, was a very how would I say it? Very powerful process for me. It changed a lot of things in my life, not just the business life, my personal life. A lot of aspects have changed in my life due to that. And since then, since I refined my process and my purpose and defined it, my whole business also changed. And I was also later taking certification with Tim about the true process, true purpose process. And I think that people who are get to know this process and to go through this process will add a great value to the lives. And that's why I wanted so much to do this interview with you, Tim. Although all the conditions, which was really hectic here.
Well, this is a side effect of your decision to travel around the world and continue running your business around, which I salute your courage at doing that.
Yeah. But just that you know, it took me like 3 days to find a decent place with internet connection that enables us to do what we're doing now.
It's a good connection. I give you credit for that.
Yeah. As you can see, people are still celebrating here.
It's a big party. It's a global party today.
Yeah. So I just want to say, I see here a question, someone saying that I'm in black and white and you're in color. The reason that I'm black and white is because there is a power failure here, and all the lights here are generator lights, so it's not full light, and this is why I'm black and white.
Oh,
so
the camera can't pick up the colors.
Yeah.
I was curious about that, but I didn't say anything.
So, Tim, you're coming to Israel soon, next month. Again, I would say, and I thought that this before just before you come, I thought it would be a great opportunity to let people here to get more familiar with what you do and with your work, and to talk about things that I think are really important to every one of us.
Yeah. Appreciate that.
Outside, okay.
No, inside.
They're going to blow up some fireworks outside now. So.
Good. Yeah, outside would be good. Yeah.
Yeah, outside would be good.
There they go. All right. Close the door, guys.
Okay, so Tim, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. So, as you know, Eran, but I imagine the audience doesn't, I started out as a software developer at Oracle Corporation years ago. And I did very well for myself and worked my way up through the ranks there and became, a director and was running an organization and working 2 levels below Larry Ellison. And then realized that I wasn't going to make myself happy by doing that. And started a long process of self-reflection and introspection and work on myself. And it cost me a lot of money to make that choice, which, I think people who don't really know their purpose well, that's often a cost of that kind of shift when they feel unfulfilled at what they're doing or they want more. Fortunately, it doesn't have to be that way. We'll talk about that as the hour unfolds here, but eventually I discovered my own purpose and have completely changed what I'm doing. My degree is in theoretical mathematics from MIT. But as you know now, Eran, most of my work currently is with CEOs and government ministers and heads of nonprofits and people like that, helping them find and orient their lives around their purpose, and then doing the same for their organizations. And there's many companies in Israel.
It's important to know.
Many companies in Israel, very big ones, banks, construction companies, high-tech startups, huge organizations in some cases that unfortunately I can't name. Opposition leaders, Knesset members, Knesset commissioners, military generals, lots and lots of folks in Israel. My own purpose calls me to Israel. We can talk about that later too. Discovered, partly out of necessity for myself and then taught to others, was that having your purpose really, really clear gives you a very important business advantage that most people are completely unaware of. In many people's minds around the world, but especially I find in Israel, people have this sort of split in their mind that, this is the kind of business practical stuff over here. And then here's this soft, fluffy, personal work stuff over here. And that they don't really have anything to do with one another. So they might do a lot of work on themselves, like reading books or hiring a coach or going to workshops, but that's the fluffy stuff. We do that if we have time and money, because we have to reserve enough time for the practical stuff that really earns the money, the real stuff that you can knock on and touch with your hand. And I see some of that in the US, but I see it much, much stronger split in Israel. And what I discovered was that having the purpose piece really, really well defined actually affects both realms. Now, it's pretty obvious how it affects the personal realm, in that if I'm really, really clear on my life's purpose, then I can take actions that will make my life much more fulfilling. Actually, the research now shows that you'll live longer if you do that. And your brain survives dementia better. You're less likely to get Alzheimer's or dementia, stuff like that. And you know, creates happiness. Like if you give someone a lot of money, it actually doesn't make them happy. That's a big misconception that's been disproven by research. If you give someone large quantities of money, in fact, it can really destroy their lives. Lottery winners don't usually do that well. But fulfillment, that is having a purpose, living a purpose, making a positive difference in the world, has a really good long-term impact on someone's health, happiness, and well-being. What's less well understood, but I know you understand this, Iran, is that having your purpose really, really clear affects the business realm as well. So I can actually use that purpose to increase my fees, find better clients, offer new services, and if it's a whole organization, and I found the higher purpose of companies, they can use it to attract more customers, to attract more funding, and in particular to appeal to millennials who are very, very purpose sensitive. The people born after 1980 don't like spending money on companies that don't have a higher purpose. They really want to spend their money in a way that makes a difference in the choice of products that they buy and creates a better world. You know, the people in the tent cities have this idealistic, you know, even though the tents are gone, the idealism remains. They really want to have a different relationship with companies. They don't want to just fund a few rich families. They want the money they spend to create a better world. So I guess that's one of the key things that I learned, and I'm able to charge much, much more money for my services than I was when I was a very highly paid and successful database consultant and technical consultant doing those more tangible, real things. Now working with these leaders, helping them do stuff that in theory ought to be soft stuff, I'll charge, you know, $10,000 or $12,000 for a day's worth of work, dollars, not shekels, for a day's worth of work, and sometimes more. Find and pursue their purpose. So that's just sort of a brief introduction, and I think maybe a setup for the call as well.
Yeah, right. So I want, you know, to start to dive straight in, and the first thing that I want us to talk about is how a person can really know, you know, and connect to it, to what he needs to do here and to what's right for him, and to be able to deliver his high value to the world.
Yeah, yeah. So the first part, connecting to the purpose, people have a natural impulse to want to do this, but a majority of people sort of just leave it as a question. They have this thought in their mind that, you know, I think there might be something more for me. And, oh, hi there, little guy. I think there might be something more for me in life than what I've experienced. I would like more meaning in my life. You know, you think about it in terms of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. As people, their basic stuff, a certain amount of their attention naturally turns to living a meaningful life, especially as they age, right? When people get to our age or older, they start to think, you know, I only have so many productive years left. I really want to make a difference. These days, the youngsters are having these conversations with themselves when they're like 25 years old. And most people tend to either leave this as a question, or if they do try to answer it, they try to answer it in what I would call inefficient ways. I still have that engineering mind. In inefficient ways, where they're doing trial and error. Well, let me try this career or this job and see if that feels purposeful. Well, let me try this one if that feels purposeful. It works fine, but there's so many different things you could do. That, you know, and giving something a real try usually means going for somewhere between 6 months and 2 years to really see if it works or not. It's a very inefficient way to go about it. And when people hire a coach or do a workshop, yeah, go ahead.
And there's no guarantee that it will be right for you eventually.
No, and there's so many different things you could do. You could try 8 or 10 of them and come up empty, you know. Yeah. But people make educated guesses. They follow their intuition. They do the best they can. And for some folks, that's enough. For some folks, it works. A lot of other people feel like, you know, I actually need an answer to the question. It's just not good enough for me to to try something and see if it works. I want to actually know what my purpose is. And these folks, they tend to, if they hire a coach or read a book or go to a workshop, the person will ask them, well, what are the times that you felt most aligned in your life? What are the things you feel most passionate about? What draws you? And sort of play a reverse engineering connect the dots method, where they take that and they turn it into a purpose statement. And the person says, well, my purpose is to help people, or my purpose is to teach, or my purpose is to leave the world better than I found it, or my purpose is to make a difference, something like that, which is no doubt true, but it's so vague that it's difficult to use that purpose in decision making, and pretty much impossible to use it in marketing, to use it to increase your business effectiveness with a purpose like that. It's just much too simple and much too vague. And as you know, Aran, the method I like to use is to help someone increase their intuition, their ability to hear their intuition to such a high degree that it can basically just tell them what their purpose is. And this method has been used with many thousands of people. I honestly don't know how many, because we've trained like 1,500 or 1,800 professionals like you around the world who are doing this with people. And so we have no idea how many people's purpose has been found this way, but we know it's many thousands. And it reveals such a specific purpose. Usually it takes at least a paragraph. My document, I have a purpose.doc document. It's like 6 pages long of information about my purpose and how it works. And I know you have one similar to that. There's so much more information.
I'm embarrassed to say mine in Hebrew is 9 pages.
Why would you be embarrassed? You win.
I'm trying to read it.
There's so much information available about one's life purpose and how it works that can then be used in so many different ways. But in my experience, it has to be done via this more direct method of, again, using my computer background as a metaphor, downloading your purpose rather than trying to figure out what it is. So it's really a question of figuring out, getting the cable plugged into the right socket and sending the right data request so the purpose comes down over the line. A little confusing to people, but the simplest way to put it is to say that your purpose, or if you don't believe you already have a purpose, the purpose that would work best for you is a piece of information that's available if you know where to go to access it. And if you know where to go to access it, and you can access it successfully, then you have all this information. The trick for most people is they don't know where to go to access it, and they have fears of learning the answer, and so it just stays vague as a question in their mind, literally for decades. I mean, for me, it was 20 years before I actually got the purpose. It can go on for a long, long time, and that question can never be answered. And you can live a fulfilling life to a degree. Purpose, really, really clear, allows you to go, aha, now I see, if I did more of this and less of this, and I included more of this in my job and more of this in my hobbies, now I would be fulfilled. And then you do it, and it's great. And now you have this feeling of meaning, that your life is making a difference. You can see the impact on other people's lives. All of these features get turned up much higher than you can if you don't know your purpose, to put it simply. You've been through this. Anything you want to add about it?
No, I completely agree, and I personally went through the exact path that you described until I started to work with you and with that method. And I must say, you mentioned that the method is actually enables you to connect to your higher intuition in a way. And I must add here that beside of just getting your purpose information, you get a whole lot other information about anything in your life intuitively, which is very, very powerful. And you also said,
including business decisions, and you and I have a mutual friend who used his intuitive connection to create a business plan that in 3 years increased his company's revenue by 1,200%, and I mean, the difference that intuitive decision making can make is really astounding. It's actually hard for people to believe how much better the decisions and the results are with that.
Yeah. And you also said something that you know, I don't want that people will miss it with all the other things that you talked about. That some people are actually afraid of knowing or discovering their purpose, and it might sound to some people like a paradox. You know, people are spending their lives to look for their purpose, and how come I'm afraid of it?
Yeah, well, most people don't realize they're afraid, but it's very easy to tell whether you're afraid. I do a little exercise with people. I say, okay, so imagine I had an envelope here and it said, you know, Ronnie's life purpose or Irit's life purpose or whatever. And I say, okay, good. Here's the envelope. Here's your purpose. Go ahead and open the envelope and read the reason why you're here on this planet. And just notice, if you, imagining me handing the envelope to you, imagine it, just notice if you have any reservations or concerns at all. Is any part of you going, whoa, wait a minute, you know, I'm not sure I want to know. And the truth is that for over 99% of people, they have some kind of concern or doubt or fear about learning their purpose. And that is absolutely fatal to the process. It's completely normal. And if you have a concern that, oh no, some bad thing might happen if I learn my purpose, your mind will not let you answer the question. And so the question will remain an unanswered question indefinitely as long as you have at least one fear, concern, doubt, or limiting belief. And at this point now, Eran, I have an update for you. We now have met 15 people. There were 2 in a workshop I did in Switzerland in August to raise the number. There are now 15 people who did not have any fears of finding their purpose and were able to just get it. And people like that can get their purpose in under an hour, which is amazing. I mean, that's great. And you're not one of those 15, and I'm not one of those 15. Us normal people.
Yeah, so statistically, just to make it, you know, for Israel, if you're trying to get your purpose like that, statistically,
it's not going to happen.
Not on your side. Yeah.
It's not going to happen. Even if you knew the right questions to ask, even if you know where to go to get the information, it's not going to happen because your fears will just cut the phone line, cut the data line, and prevent you from downloading the information. And so what we do when we do workshops, for example, we have an exercise that takes about an hour that will clear up the fears for 90% of the people. And it's pretty consistent. We've done it a lot. You know, I just did it with a group of CEOs in New Jersey. There were like 50 of them or something like that. And sure enough, at the end, 90% of them had their purpose, just like clockwork. So we can, in just a matter of an hour or a couple of hours, if people need it, we can deal with those fears, create that intuitive connection that allows them to get their purpose in much greater detail. And then, as you said, Eran, very importantly, that intuitive connection remains open and available to them for the rest of their life. And that's the real payoff. Like you said, it's easy to say, well, I want to find my purpose, but I got to tell you, that intuitive connection is worth a ton. And top CEOs, Patricia is a woman who wrote Megatrends. She interviewed top CEOs, and in private, they admitted that they used a combination of logic and intuition in making critical business decisions. The most successful ones, the ones who only use logic and not intuition, are less successful because their decisions are lower quality. And that's something most people don't realize, particularly folks in Israel who have that, you know, kind of need everything to be really tangible. Intuitive decision-making in combination with logic and rationality is extraordinarily powerful, and extraordinarily powerful in business. It allows people to find and create solutions that they could not have rationally predicted, and that is a huge competitive advantage. Anyway, so yeah, so we have to deal with those fears. And so, like I said, in a workshop setting, that takes 1 to 2 hours to do. And once we do that, now the connection is open and we can start to get really good purpose information.
Yeah, and so, and also an aspect of a person needs to be, I would call it like ready for a process like that. It's part of the field that you talked about. So just, you know, for people who are now watching us and listening, how can I, if I'm watching it, how can I know if I'm ready for such a process?
That's a really great question, because the truth is that for many people, this isn't really the right thing to do. But there's a subset of folks who really, really need this, and it would be very helpful for them to be able to tell if they're in that set or not. There's a couple different situations that really call for this kind of purpose method. And it's usually personally driven. It can also be business driven, but it's almost never purely business. Like, I haven't run into a CEO yet who said, yeah, well, I don't believe in any of this crap, but yeah, find my purpose. I want to make more money. It's usually not how it goes. It's usually a combination of the two. So first off, let me say that there's usually two different kinds of motivation for finding purpose. And I would say, to summarize them in a word, one is aspiration and the other is desperation. So the desperation one looks like, my life is falling apart. You know, my wife's divorced me. I've actually run into this there. My wife's divorced me. My business is going under, and I've been diagnosed with prostate cancer. You know, it's like things are really falling apart. And someone in that situation, sometimes they're just focused on problem solving. But sometimes they get this little voice in the back of their head saying, you know, this is happening for a reason. I don't know what that reason is, but something's going on here. There's some need for meaning, or there's something different I'm supposed to be doing. And this might be life sending me a signal. If the person has that thought in their mind and they're actually willing to try to answer that question, they can turn that situation around in really remarkable ways pretty quickly, actually. Because sometimes when people's lives unravel like that, it's a sign that they're off track. One scenario where the person's like really desperate and needs to find their purpose because it's coming apart. The other more common scenario is aspiration, meaning that I have a feeling that there must be something more for me. What I'm doing what I'm doing is fine. You know, I've got my relationship, I've got my job, or I've got my own company or whatever, and things are going okay. And I know there's something more for me. And it's like bugging me in the back of my mind. There's this little voice in the back of my head that keeps saying, you know that there's something bigger you're supposed to be doing. You know there's something more here for you. You know there's more meaning available in life. You know there's a bigger difference you could make in the world, and you're supposed to do it. And that little nagging feeling that there's something more, which actually is very common in leaders, and it's a sign of psychological health. That's that top level of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, calling, saying, yoo-hoo, up here, right? When people have that experience, that's really the best time to find their purpose, before everything unravels and gets bad. So those are the two scenarios. The third one I would say, which we see a lot with people who are called to do this process, is people have a felt sense, like an intuitive knowing, that they're supposed to change the world in some way, that they're called to transform something, to change people's lives, to make society different. And they don't even know what it's supposed to look like, but they have this sense that somehow they got to sign this job, and they don't know why, and they don't know how to perform it, but it's like this sense that, you know, the world is supposed to be different than it is, and I'm supposed to help create that new world, and I don't know how. And those people I like to call change agents. And so folks who are change agents have this impulse to do more, but they usually are held back by the fear that if they do that, it's going to mess up something in their lives. And what they really need is they need a very, very clear sense of purpose and a plan for how to manifest that purpose in a way that's going to earn them more money, make them happier, and improve their lives in every possible way. And that's in many ways the ideal scenario for people doing this process. I think that's a pretty good summary. Would you add anything? You've run into people in these various situations too, Aran. Would you agree with those formulations?
Yeah, definitely. I think you covered probably the whole aspect of that. What I might add is that I witnessed people that are also very successful at what they are doing. So it's not necessarily that, you know, your life is falling apart. You could be very successful, you know. I see people in high-ranking jobs and, you know, with a lot of, you know, big payouts and everything, a lot of responsibilities and big titles and everything, you know, the whole package. But inside, they felt that something is not right anymore, and it takes a lot of courage to even acknowledge that. Not to mention to do anything about it, but just to acknowledge that it's very frightening, which come back to all of the reasons you specified before why people don't find their purpose.
About the fears, absolutely. Yeah. The thing I would add about that is that it's really a disease. We both see it's a disease amongst very successful people where they're, like you said, a lot of money, a lot of prestige. Other people are congratulating them on how successful they are. And inside, they're not satisfied. They know there's something bigger they're supposed to be doing, and they don't know what it is. Or they have a sense of what it is, and they're trying to do it, and it's not working. That's another very common scenario. And I run into that all the time with very high-level leaders, people who've sold their companies and retire and are sitting on a large pile of money, people who have funded nonprofits and done all sorts of great work. But there's this itch in them. They know there's a bigger difference they're supposed to be making, and they're doing everything they can think of to make a difference and create meaning, and somehow, according to some weird internal standard, it's not enough. And the reason it's not enough is because they're unconsciously comparing what they're doing to their actual purpose, because unconsciously they know what their purpose is. And so they know this isn't it. It's this. Right? But they can say, it's not this. It's not what I'm doing. There's something much bigger. There's something much more. And like you said, boy, those fears are a killer in that scenario. What happens is they say, well, but if I do something else, then I'll give up this income, or I'll give up this money, or people will think I'm crazy. They have some imagined fear of what will happen if they do it, which if they did it really badly, I suppose could happen. But really, it's about getting that really distinct clarity of purpose and then figuring out, great, now that I know that, how do I manifest that in a way that increases the amount of money I have, increases my prestige, increases, and it's very difficult for people to do alone. The fears just stop them dead in their tracks. When they try to sit down by themselves at their desk and try to figure this stuff out, it just doesn't go anywhere, because the fears just keep them kind of looping around in a circle. They really need that help to deal with the fears and to get the purpose so crystal clear that they can make a strategic plan out of it. Really good addition. That's a very important additional scenario. And those are actually the people I typically work with one-on-one, is those really high-level leaders with a lot of power. So,
yeah. And another I would say rather big population you also mentioned is those people who are going around in the world with this big inner knowing that they have something in them to change the world in a way, but they have no idea what to play.
Yeah.
And I would assume that people who are now watching us, law of attraction and everything, I would assume that many of them are here now. And I would
pretty high proportion, I would imagine, of change agents watching this webinar.
So I was thinking
if you're out there and you're a change agent, you can just raise your hand and say, "Yeah, exactly. I know I'm supposed to change the world." Yeah, good.
Exactly. So what I want to do, I want to ask them if they are here to write, that's me or something like that, to write in the chat. It will be interesting to see. But I would imagine that there are a lot of people like that here because the nature of things.
Yeah.
And so we started to talk about those change agents, and
actually, I just thought of one last population I want to mention very quickly, which is what I call messengers. Right? There are people who feel that they have some kind of message to give to the world. I knew this when I was like 15 or 16 years old. I had no idea what my message was, but I could tell already, just intuitively, that when I was older, I was going to be speaking to audiences and writing and stuff like that. So there are people who are called to media, to speaking, writing, teaching, leading, who know intuitively that there's some message they're supposed to give to the world, and they usually don't know what it is. But that's another population that really benefits from very precise purpose work, so that they can learn that message and go give that message to the world. It's hugely important for that group. It's usually a slightly smaller percentage than change agents, but I bet there's a lot of messengers on this call too.
Okay, so I want us to talk more about those change agents and how you actually, if you know you're a change agent, how you can also not just be a change agent, but be one with influence in the business world and to make more money of that. So that's the next thing I would like us to talk about. But before we dive into that, I wanted you to you're coming to Israel next month, and
I'll be flying back to meet with some politicians and run some purpose events and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I must say here that one of the most profound events that I had the pleasure to participate in was one that we held. I think it was back in May. With my community when we did a work together on the purpose of Israel, and
your community came up with some brilliant purpose statements. I have to say, for Israel, they did an absolutely fantastic job.
Yeah. So I wanted you maybe you could share first what's your purpose and how it relates to Israel, and then we can talk about those change agents as well.
Yeah, so a simple way of putting my purpose, of course, like as previously noted, I have a 6-page document, which I'm not prepared to read right now. But I'm really called to transform society. And one of the main ways I do that, a way I would put it, when people say, "Oh, Tim, what do you do for a living?" The true answer is that I guide leaders to create heaven on earth. And that looks like, as I said, working with CEOs, politicians, and organizations to transform them into more effective, more powerful creators of change. And really, at a level of mission, I'm working to transform human society. And the reason I do so much work in Israel, I wouldn't say it's convenient since I live in California, and I wouldn't say it's easier to work with than Californians. But the reason I work in Israel is because Israel's purpose, and Israel being a nation that's really showing what a nation can be, is an important step in global transformation. And the rest of the world, one of the reasons why so many people are frustrated with Israel, Israelis often think that's anti-Semitism. Some of it is. But a lot of that is the rest of us being frustrated with you guys for not doing your purpose. We hold you to a very high standard because Israelis know, and the rest of the world knows, we're really supposed to be a light to the world, and it is really supposed to be modeling what an ideal society could be, and it's not doing it. And so we're waiting on you because it's an important step in the evolution of humanity for Israel to find and manifest its purpose. And so I'm going to LA in 2 weeks to do a fundraiser. We've got a project underway. As you know, we've worked with people from all walks of life in Israeli society. And we've now had about 5 or 6 different groups get purpose information about the country and align on it. And each group's purposes are very similar, as we would expect using this process. So that's an important long-term project for me. And it'll take a few years, but it's really a big deal for Israel to find and live its purpose. It will have a huge effect on the rest of the planet when we can get that to happen. And I say we because I'm called to do it. And no, I'm not Jewish or anything. I'm some Scottish guy who lives in Berkeley. But my purpose said, get your ass over there, Tim, and help Israel find us. So I'm like, all right. So there I am.
Okay. Yeah. So you're coming to Israel in December, and one of the things that you'll be holding here is also a very special event for 3 days. I want you to talk about it for a bit.
Yeah, so usually when I do purpose work, I do it either one-on-one or in groups with very high-level leaders, and occasionally I do public workshops. And so we'll be doing one of those on December 8th through 10th. And so it's an evening and then 2 days over a weekend, a Thursday night, all day Friday, all day Saturday, December 8, 9, and 10. And this is really a very short and intense experience of taking a deep dive into your purpose. And we know, because we've done it so many times, that at least 90% of the people, possibly higher, will walk out of that room with real clarity of purpose, that they'll have probably somewhere between 2 and 4 very specific purpose statements, clear enough that they can make decisions about it and potentially even use it in business. And this includes dealing with the fears, connecting to a source that can give you your purpose, increasing your intuition, all that stuff that we talked about. This can all be done in 2.5 days with a group of suitably motivated people. And we know they'll be motivated because people will self-select, right? The ones who are on this webinar listening and feeling that itch and feeling that sense of, oh yeah, there is something more. They're talking about me. I see some guy here wrote, I'm a messenger. Could you say something about it? Like they're here. They know who they are. So those are the people who are going to choose to do it, right? And with a room full of folks like that, man, we can go deep very quickly and get very powerful purpose information. And we'll have, you know, probably 6 assistants who are fluent in English and Hebrew, so they can help you, because I mean, we want people to walk out with purpose statements in Hebrew, right? I mean, it doesn't, you know, unless they're like you and do a lot of international work, having them in English doesn't really help that much. So this is a very powerful growth and development experience. And we know how to turn the results of that into good business results, right? That's part of the game, is that after that workshop, you'll be able to take the purpose information that you receive and integrate it into your work, whether you're a leader, whether you run your own small business, or whether you're an employee in a larger organization. It doesn't matter. No matter which of those situations you're in, there's a strategy for integrating your purpose into your job. And I'm a huge fan of that, because we spend so much time and energy at work. If you try to do your purpose on the side, you get much less fulfillment and less money, because really the money comes from integrating the purpose into work. More fulfilled, happier people earn more money. It's that simple. And especially if you're doing anything where you're planning on marketing stuff to younger people, you really want that clarity of purpose to integrate into your work. So this will be 2.5 days. What's the price, Ron? I don't remember what it was. Do we have a link for them? Where can they go?
Oh yeah, I just put them. You hear me? I just put the link. And I will send it also in the chat.
Yeah. If someone's asking, is this workshop scheduled for next month? The answer is yes. It's like a month and a week from now.
Yeah.
So it's coming up soon. Yeah, there it is. There's the link. So yeah, No Mind is hosting it. We already have a bunch of people enrolled. There've been a lot of folks signing up. This has been very, very popular. So I'm not sure how soon it's going to sell out, but I would encourage folks to get on board before it does. Also, the price we're giving is going to expire in a week, I think. So we're doing sort of tiered pricing. After a week, the price will go up, and the people who enroll after that will pay more. So, you know, for me, I think this is much less than we charge in the US. I think, you know, and like I said, if it's a leader, I'll say, sure, I'll find your purpose. That'll be $10,000, please, and consider it a bargain, because I, you know, used to charge $25,000. So,
and it's also 3 days in hotel in Veilan, if I recall, right?
I think you're right. Yeah. So I'm very excited about this. And again, we don't do these public workshops very often. Usually it's for a closed group of leaders who are part of a particular organization or something like that, you know, executive team or something for a large company or something like that. Very rarely is it just open to the public like this. I talk about purpose all the time, but in terms of actually doing a workshop where we can help people find it in just a couple of days, that's much more rare. In fact, I can't remember the last time I did that in Israel. It was years ago, I think. So we're very excited about this. I hope you'll come. If you know you're a change agent or a messenger, if you have this itch in the back of your mind saying, yeah, there's more for me, then absolutely sign up. It would be perfectly normal and perfectly fine if you also felt some degree of fear, doubt, or anxiety about it. That's part of the process, right? So if this is really purposeful for you, you'll feel a combination of things. You'll feel part of you going, ooh, I really need that. That would be really good for me. And another part of you saying, no, 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 you can't do that. You can't afford that. That doesn't make sense. And you got to focus on practical things. This is that other. And what if this goes wrong, right? This other voice in your head explaining why it's a bad idea. And if those two voices are loud, that's a really good sign that you should do the workshop. So pay attention to that.
Great. So we posted the link, so people who want can go to the link and have all the details. Also, and I see some people have here questions about, you know, staying in Jerusalem or staying in the hotel and all of that. So if you'll notice at the webpage, you have a place to leave your details. Leave your details there, and you will get all the answers for that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good. Yeah.
So,
I apologize. I'm not running the thing. I don't know the hotel details. Yeah. I have people who do that stuff. So.
Yeah. So that's what I want people to just enroll there, and you will get all the details.
Yeah.
So I wanted to talk, you know, to continue our discussion about the change agents. And so how, if I have this, you know, how you call this internal itch, and I know it's me, how I become, what do I need to do in order to become a change agent with influence on people, how to make a business, how to make money out of it?
Right. So a lot of folks will, you know, donate money to charity or try to figure out some way to help other people or improve people's lives. And they'll have some sense of roughly how to do it based on their background and stuff. But without the clarity of purpose, the impact that's possible that way is always going, always going to be limited, right? There's a certain degree of impact you can get to without having real clarity of purpose. And in addition to that, as you know, Iran, that's also a limiting factor on income, right? I mean, you can't really monetize your purpose unless it's very, very clear. And monetizing your purpose makes you more valuable as a business resource and therefore worth more money. It certainly did to me, and it has to you, and it's done it for many other people as well. So the first step is to get clear of these fears that we're talking about, right? Because most change agents have fears about acting on that impulse, that itch to be a change agent. Have to get clear of those fears. Then you have to get really, really clear on your purpose. And that requires getting this intuitive channel really pumped up so that you now have this access to wisdom, internal wisdom that can inform you about your purpose and, very importantly, inform you how to manifest it. Once those things are in place, and this is my personal strong recommendation, and you've taken it and it's worked very well for you, is to take that purpose and monetize it. Take that purpose and turn it into a business activity that you earn money at. And the reason for this is that if you're earning money at your purpose, first of all, it's now possible to earn more money potentially than you were earning before doing something that was less purposeful. But very importantly, you will have much more impact if you make your purpose your day job than if you try to do it as some sort of hobby on the side. And I run into some weird limiting beliefs in people. Some people believe that you can't earn money at your purpose, which is absolutely not true. I earn a ton of money at my purpose. I don't earn money doing anything that's not purposeful at this point, I don't think. And I've even run into people who feel that it's immoral to charge money to do your purpose, which I find very strange. Is it specifically Israelis who believe this? Oh, you shouldn't charge money to do your purpose. It's back to that split, right? Well, we do the business stuff over here and the purpose stuff over there. I'm like, well, okay, you can do it that way if you want, but you can have more fulfillment and more money by using your purpose as a business activity. And as you know, Iran, part of what your purpose tells you, and this is so important to change agents, it tells you exactly what activity to do that will have the greatest impact on other people, provide the most benefit to you, and create the most change in the world. It's very specific. And now if you do that, you can basically say to other people, I want you to hire me to do my purpose to you. And the purpose will even tell you who the people are who need that, right? There's people wandering around the world desperately waiting for you to show up in their lives so you can do your purpose to them. You and I are modeling this right now, Ron, right? Where we're showing up in some other people's lives and saying, yoo-hoo, we have what you need. It's right here. This could be you doing that with other people and saying to them, hey, this is my purpose. This is what you need. And if you pay me this money, I'll do it to you. And then they will happily pay it. You will do your purpose to them. They will be transformed by it, grateful, and love you for the rest of their lives and recommend you to all their friends. But you know, the purpose has to be sufficiently clear to make that work. Now, I used to charge, let's see, when I was doing database consulting, I would charge maybe like $2,000 a day. And I made a good living charging $2,000 a day as a database consultant. As a purpose consultant, that is helping leaders and organizations find their higher purpose, I charge $10,000 a day. Same amount of time, right? Completely different service. And very importantly, you've seen this one too, Ron, if you're selling your purpose, because your purpose is unique, you have no competition. It's very simple, right? You're the only person in the world who's designed to do that specific thing. And now when people say to me, oh, Tim, what do you do? So let's say I'm talking to an Israeli politician. And he says, Tim, I really want to work with you. Tell me what you do. I say, well, I guide leaders like you to create heaven on earth. I'm going to transform you into a new paradigm leader who's going to be able to transform your country. That's my purpose. And now he's going to go, gee, I don't know. Well, that's a lot of money, $10,000 a day. Let me go look online and find all the other consultants who guide leaders to create heaven on earth so that I can compare their prices. You're going to find zero, right? There's no competition. And your purpose also is unique. You've experienced this, Aaron.
Yeah, that's I call it marketing. How we call it? How to differentiate yourself in a way that no one can copy.
Yeah, so blue ocean is one of the terms often used for that, right? But yeah, and no one can copy is an important feature, because if you come up with some clever marketing trick, somebody else can go, oh wow, that's cool. I'll copy that, and then it'll work for just as well for them as it will for you.
Yeah.
But if anyone else tries to do my purpose, they're guaranteed to be less good at it than I am. And it's going to sound really weird coming out of their mouths.
Yeah. How I used to describe it is that when you're describing your purpose to the world, you have the words which carries some energy with it, right? Mm-hmm. And if if someone will copy the word, he will copy the word, but he won't copy the energy.
That's right. That's right. And we know this because we do this for whole organizations. We find the higher purpose of the organization. I did this recently with a startup in Israel, a big data company. And they've used it to actually triple their valuation, the purpose that they found, and hire key employees. They used the purpose to attract key people that they wanted to hire. And the CEO, when we were done, he said, well, this is great. This took us, 2 days to do this for the company. He said, in the past, I've seen other processes that try to come up with this powerful of a mission statement for an organization, and it took 40 meetings to come up with something like that. And it wasn't as good as this. And, it's way too hard to try to figure this out and be clever. And I gotta say, I'm too lazy. I cheat. I get that stuff from my purpose. I get it from that intuitive channel. I don't want to work that hard making it up. I'm not good enough at writing that stuff. And so I can compete with people who are far better at marketing than I am because I'm using my purpose. It gives me a distinct competitive advantage.
Yes, that's I see. I use it myself. I see others in my community do it as well, and it works like a charm, I must say.
Yeah, and ultimately the change agents and messengers, we have that guy asking, can you say more about being a messenger? Yeah, so a messenger usually looks like, you're a messenger, that there's some message you're supposed to spread to the world, you're called to speaking or writing or leading or teaching, and usually you don't know what the message is. It's just that little gnawing at the back of your mind. And if you find your purpose, it will clarify what that message is and who needs to hear it, and how to spread that message, right? If you're a change agent, it tells you exactly the change you're supposed to make in the world and exactly how to do it, right? This is the information that's contained in your purpose if you get it to a sufficiently specific level of detail, which this process does. And now you can make much better choices and say, okay, I see, here's my purpose. How do I integrate that into my job? How do I sell that as a service? How do I get myself speaking gigs, spreading that message? And I got to tell you, if you're willing to do that, and it takes some courage, but if you're willing to do that, the results go up very dramatically as a result. You will get much more attention behaving that way than the most clever strategic plan you could possibly ever come up with. So it's a huge advantage. And if you're a change agent, really the bottom line is, do you really want to answer that call? Do you really want to say yes to that little voice in the back of your mind that's saying, hey, buddy, you're supposed to change the world. You wanna? Shall we? Let's go. And it's tempting and easy to delay it. It's tempting and easy to say, well, you know, I got this other stuff to deal with first. I'm a little busy right now, right? You're always going to be busy. There's always something else that's going to be clamoring for your attention to do. At some point, you have to say, okay, I'm going to say yes to that. I'm going to at least go find out what my purpose is to see, are these guys right? Is this something that I want to make part of my life or not? But you have to answer the question first. What is my purpose? Before you can say, is that something I want to do? Right now, you probably don't have enough information to answer that question.
Yeah, yeah. Great. So, Tim, this was wonderful. You know, any kind of like last thoughts before we kind of wrap up it for the hour?
Well, let me say that this path requires some courage, right? You have to be willing to say yes to it. You have to be willing to say yes to finding your purpose. And once you found it, you have to be willing to say yes to living it and integrating it into your life. Now, the benefits are enormous. They're staggering. They're usually much greater than people could have imagined. But that first step, because at this point, we haven't done the exercise to help you deal with your fears yet. That first step is saying, yeah, you know what? I know these guys are talking about me. I know what they're saying is true about me. I can feel it. I can hear the little voice in the back of my head. And yes, with my anxiety, with my doubts, I'm willing to take that first step and say yes. And if you don't, you know, you have the rest of your life to change your mind, but you know, these opportunities only come every so often. And so here's one of those opportunities. Life is knocking on the door and seeing if you're willing to answer, right? Aran and I are here because our purpose calls us to help people like you find your purpose. That's why we're having this conversation with you. We're fulfilling our purpose right now. The question is, are you going to say yes and fulfill your purpose or not?
Yeah, Tim, that was great.
I love our little chats, Aran.
Yeah, with all the conditions, actually, you haven't noticed the power is back, so I'm back in color and not in.
Now you're in color. Yeah.
Yeah. There were a couple of fireworks outside, but I put them mute so we didn't hear them. So.
I'm sure they're having a great party. I wish them well in whatever celebration this is. I don't understand my Indian holidays.
It's called the Diwali, and what actually it is, it's about the victory of the good force on the evil force, on the good and the day on the light. So, yeah.
Well, that's how convenient, how relevant.
Exactly. So again, I really enjoyed this. It was a great experience to do it here from India and the States and to broadcast it to Israel. Smaller today.
Thank you so much for putting this together. I really appreciate it, and it's always a pleasure to me to talk to your community.
Thank you. So again, all of those who enjoyed this conversation and wanted to make the further step, you have the link here, and I will also email it to you tomorrow with the recording of this interview so you can watch again. And I won't be in Israel in December to meet you. But who knows, maybe later this year I'll be in the States.
Absolutely. Well, I'll be there in December to meet them if they want to come. So.
Yes.
Get some sleep on. What is it, like 2 or 3 in the morning there? All right, well, Aran seems to be frozen. Thanks, everybody. I think that's our clue that time for us to wrap up our call. There we go.
Okay.
Oh, he's back.
Okay. Bye-bye, Tim.
All right. Good night. Laila tov.